Hello, I'm Ghazal Khezri, director at LOHA. We are a team of about 20 designers based in Los Angeles and Detroit. Thank you for having us. This is South Los Angeles, where the 105 and 110 freeway meet, one of the busiest intersections in the city. From above, you can see the intensity of the neighborhood, distressed building, streets, and freeways. Here we built Isla intersection. It's a 54-unit supportive housing project and Paseo. It's a unique story, but it's also a prototype for how underutilized spaces can transform isolation into connection. We were fortunate to land this project in partnership with the city and our wonderful client, Holos Communities. There are main issues here that we'll walk you through, starting with leveraging underutilized public land, creating opportunities for communal green space, centering care in the design, reducing construction time through modular building, and designing for the challenging site. The story begins with the land itself. With rising land costs, we have to ask, where can we build? Our site is highlighted in red here. It's a leftover triangle. It's bordered by major roads and freeways, socially disconnected and physically isolated. No infrastructures, no utilities, no surrounding context. Not exactly where you would expect to build housing, but the opportunity came from the land itself. And that's what made it interesting. The city of Los Angeles owns over 1,700 surplus parcels, land just sitting empty. Our client leased this site for $1 a year for 99 years, so it's essentially free land. That simple policy removed one of the biggest costs in affordable housing and let us redirect it back into the project itself. Another key advantage was the absence of parking requirement due to its close proximity to public transportation, freeing up millions of dollars and valuable space. So removing what's usually required, the land cost and the parking, made the project financially viable, but not easy. You can see here the surplus lands come with challenges: irregular geometry, tricky zoning, contamination, and disconnection from the grid. Also, we had very little surrounding, a blank canvas that made us ask what kind of community could emerge here on its own terms. So to make this happen, we turned to modular approach, using recycled steel shipping containers. As we know, the idea is simple: build in two places at once, a process that is far faster than traditional construction. But the efficiency wasn't about the process. It meant people could move in months sooner. Beyond housing, we also carved out spaces for care, training, and connection. Residents that have access to job training, counseling, and life skill support, plus a startup lab and workshops for making and selling goods. Gardens and communal spaces, they host programs around healthy eating and wellness, kind of grounding the project in daily life. So this isn't just housing, it's really where homeless communities begin to rebuild their lives. Instead of one massive block, we composed 16 staggered towers, and you can see that in the axon here. That really breaks up the freeway noise. It invites sunlight and creates a central courtyard. Along the south edge, the Atenways, it was once a street for cars, is now a public park that really connects the site to the neighborhood at large. It's a powerful example of design shifting culture. It's showing what happens when infrastructure begins to prioritize people over cars. In the plan on the right, you can see how the rotated volumes are connected by walkways and stairs to unify the structure. At the center, there is a communal green space, and then you'll see the step roof gardens that they move through the building, and these connections really invite quiet moments of encounter. And together, they form this vertical village. Isla performs across three dimensions of sustainability: environmental, social, and civic. Its systems conserve energy and water through passive shading, natural ventilation, solar panel, as well as gray water reuse. Its spatial design creates a sense of belonging, and its land lease model turns forgotten property into public good. Here's the grand opening. Mayor Karen Bass joined the community to celebrate. And it marked a shift as the Broadway Beautification Initiative works to restore a historic corridor after decades of neglect and disinvestment. So Isla became an anchor, proof that when policy and design align, transformation is possible.
At its highest, Isla Intersections rises 5 stories, just under 60 feet, making it the tallest modular building in Los Angeles at the time. The noise, once a constraint, ultimately informed the design. The rotated towers helped disperse sound from the freeway. Along Broadway, we shifted heights, stepping down from 5 stories to 2 as the building approaches the adjacent single-family neighborhood. Framed by the massive freeway infrastructure, the project bridges the surreal scale of the freeway with the intimate scale of the nearby single-family homes. This is a view of the tallest side of the building. From the outside, the rotated towers open to the courtyard. The ground floor is inviting with storefronts reserved for local businesses and services. The space between the building and the freeway was landscaped with carefully selected vegetation designed to purify the air. The Paseo becomes a place for the community to host weekly farmers markets, street festivals, and a play space for kids. A public art piece and seating encourage neighbors to linger. One of our firm's ongoing design investigations is how circulation can move beyond its utilitarian role to become social infrastructure. At Isla, exterior walkways, stairs, and bridges are used as connective open-air elements. This idea draws from Los Angeles' own spatial DNA, the outdoor staircases of hillside housing, the breezeways of mid-century apartments, and the vernacular porches of older neighborhoods. But here, those ideas are reimagined vertically, revealing a different relationship to the city and the community. These terraces turn the roof into a social landscape. Residents experience LA in its fullness, the layered topography of the city, the Sierra Madres on clear days, and the extraordinary light that defines this place. Each box is assembled out of 3 20-foot-long by 8-foot-wide modular containers that are welded together to form a single 480-square-foot unit. Each unit has a high-performance filtration system to maintain clean air despite the freeway's proximity. The courtyard brings daylight deep into the plan, supports cross-ventilation, and provides a slower pace that contrasts with that of the surrounding streets. Like so much of Los Angeles, it's an outdoor room that acknowledges Southern California's climate as the true urban order. In South LA, a well-known food desert, we committed to bringing edible gardens to the residents. The rooftop gardens tie Isla to a larger civic ecology and will supply food for pop-up markets and help expand a growing network of urban farms in South LA, including the Stanford Avalon Community Garden just a mile away. The Paseo's green buffer grows over time, shaping a living lung, gradually softening the threshold between the freeway and the homes. By integrating ecological systems, social programming, and rigorous site-specific design, the Paseo becomes a gathering space for the neighborhood. Today, Isla is fully occupied. 54 units are provided to formerly unhoused communities. It houses up to 112 people, with 10 units set aside for veterans. In the current political climate, when affordability is collapsing, services are strained, and vulnerable communities face unprecedented instability, Isla is an example of urgent civic infrastructure. Rayner Banham celebrated Los Angeles for offering radical alternatives to almost every urban concept. And Isla stands out as an experiment in placemaking that ensures access to clean air, water, and food, housing for all, and proximity to robust transit. Few other housing projects have made so much possible. We could not have accomplished this without host community's vision. Isla shows how architecture, policy, and care operate as a unified system. It reminds us that design has agency, it can repair the city's fractures, reconnect communities, and return land to the public good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's intriguing that you've taken a kind of organization that's very unfamiliar in US of A, if I may say so. I mean, if you didn't know and you looked at it, you'd think it was probably certainly a European project, probably Scandinavian in its organization. And so you've done cute thing, which is to take this sort of armpit location, which most people would sort of shy away from or find extremely tiresome, and exploit it. But by doing something which is really contradictory, I think, to most of LA. I mean, if it's nice topography up in the hills, then you can do almost anything. But in the flatlands, poor or rich, it tends to be orthodoxy. And then there's the irritation of the freeway. And then you've grabbed that. And the other issue, of course, is the whole one of the modular and the potential tasks. Much as we're believers, people like me are believers in the modular, the tiresomeness of the modular when it's usually done, boxes to sit together. And you've had to play with that. I think the point you made about the meandering nature of the secondary parts, the walkways. I mean, that's a trick. So not only does it look like something on the edge of Stockholm if you look at the plan, but then you knit it on a smaller scale. I mean, it's always going to be a problem with that kind of architecture because it's cheap and cheerful, so to speak. Or it's cheap, and the question is it cheerful? And there's a certain point at which there's a giveaway that it's not can't be richly detailed. But I think you've done a very good job, and one that intrigues me, because as a lover of Los Angeles, I find it not Angelino, and I'd be intrigued to be a fly on the wall of the process, where you came from, what you were looking at. But that's for another conversation.
Thank you.
I think it's I think it's a great project, and you did a good job, and you've got modular construction, which is good at bringing the cost down. So it checks a lot of boxes. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you mentioned about this is more about vertical village than how to create kind of community. But except the staircase and the roof terrace, do you have any other? Did you have any other idea how to create kind of a space to trigger the kind of interrelationship for the community?
I can start and then I'll let Jeffrey take over. But one of the big things is the Paseo, right? So the Paseo, it was a public street, and now it was foundation, that is Annenberg Foundation in LA. I think a lot of people are familiar with it. They funded this. So we transformed what was basically a street into a Paseo that it's for the neighborhood at large. So everyone gets to have access to this Paseo. And then the building is kind of positioned as these staggered towers, and they have the gaps in between that also allows that porosity to carry all the way to the courtyard. But that is a private side. And then you can also see that as it's stepping down towards Broadway, the residential area, we have roof gardens on every single level. And it's a way of like bringing life and food all the way down to the Sunday's farmers market. So there are different kinds of spaces, all the way from indoor to outdoor. I think we talked mostly about exterior spaces that are public, but there is also a community room, workshops, places for training and job and services. So there is a lot of amenities that is also on the ground level, so it kind of adds to that porosity.
That's good. Yeah.
It's really wonderful the way that you have taken, some of these kind of relatively minimal conditions of living, and you've enhanced it by, in a way, 2 layers of passage. One is the more public one is the one that's sort of semi-public that belongs to this community. I guess the question I have is whether, in your experience, when you were doing this particular project, whether you felt that there could be certain opportunities for the units themselves, for the housing, to also more directly, literally, benefit from this kind of generosity that you're bringing through the public passage, through the semi-public passage, to in some ways extend the kind of quality of life of the unit. because when you look at it, you've kind of got the housing, so it's the individual unit and everything else is communal. But there's also the in-between space where there is the housing plus something that changes it from being the modular or being a kind of minimum standard of the interior. I mean, part of the challenge to me seems to be that we really need to expand the footprint of the unit, because it's the unit that's always a little too tight. Now you have quite a lot of space around it. Could you imagine ways in which economically you could make the unit seem more generous by creating some kind of additional space to the unit rather than at the communal level?
Yes. I mean, one of the things that we've been kind of discussing, and it was part of the
I
process
think we can't
as
hear
we
you.
were. I think one of the big things that it was part of the process, and we were brainstorming a lot, was bringing more because the square footage of these units are very tight, and there's not a lot that we can do as architects to change the area of those. But I think there are ways in which we could add more openings and windows to make it feel more indoor-outdoor. But unfortunately, the budget didn't allow for that. So what we did instead was kind of adding all these communal spaces and kind of allowing that to lead into the units themselves. But it was a big challenge, and it was a big conversation around how we can give them more into their individual unit. And, like one thing was, for example, using these walkways, that they're porous, they're bringing light. So just trying to give them as much light as possible. But I would say as far as the area goes, we didn't have much saying in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point and a great question. And I feel like as an office, we've explored many alternatives to increasing the livability of units or adding to them. And that includes kind of interior pieces or custom cabinetry or things like that. But we've often found it challenging to successfully include those into the budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Peter mentioned the reference to European projects. I think it's interesting to note that probably one of the great successes of a firm like Lacaton Vassell has been the fact that they've taken kind of housing and they've been able to add 10% or 15% through the addition of a balcony or an outdoor space, especially in places where the climate is quite temperate. And I think if the budget can allow it, I think that kind of 15 or 20% addition, which is adjacent to the unit, would probably add an enormous amount in terms of like the quality of life of the unit. So maybe the modular can incorporate the little percentage of the landscape. But anyway, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.